Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's scene interview. My name is Beatrice Benn, and I'm a BFI Film Academy Young Programmer. Today's interview is part of our scene season where we chat to the award-winning filmmakers of BFI Future Film Festival 2025. I'm absolutely thrilled to be interviewing Eve Grant today, who won two major awards at the festival for her film Heavy, which she wrote and directed. She won the Best Writer Award, which was supported by Action Xtreme, and Best New Talent, which is the biggest award at the festival, supported by Sony. Best New Talent is given to a filmmaker who demonstrates creativity and passion and has a potential to develop into an exceptional filmmaker. Eve is currently studying at the National Film and Television School, and Heavy was her debut short film that premiered at Women X Film Festival last year. But before I say too much, I'd like to just introduce Eve to today's chat so she can talk more about her journey into film and how she came about to make Heavy. And if you haven't seen Heavy already, you can find it on the BFI YouTube channel. So, hello, Eve.
Hello, thank you so much
Um,
for having me.
how are you doing?
I'm good. A little bit of a stressy morning, but it's all good. But yeah, so I feel like I look a little bit red. I've been running about, but very
That's
excited
all
to be
right.
here.
You look great to me.
Thank you.
So just to start things off, do you mind giving a brief insight into what Heavy is about for those that haven't seen the film already?
Yeah, absolutely. So Heavy is I kind of think of it as like a slice of life kind of comedy drama about a father and daughter, um, which basically kind of follows a young girl who, after getting her first period at school, has to kind of seek guidance and support from her father, who is completely clueless as to how to deal with the situation. We kind of set it all in this supermarket. And it's this really quiet, simple story that I think is in some ways unbelievably like it's kind of cringe inducing and it's awkward, but I think it's ultimately very relatable. And it's just all about people who aren't very good at communicating, realizing that the only way to get out of this situation is by having those awkward and difficult conversations. So yeah.
Yeah, that sums it up pretty well. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like a relatable film for so many people. So since it is your first film, would you mind explaining like your filmmaking journey so far and how that's led to making Heavy?
Yeah. So heavy kind of happened. It was quite random actually. So my background is that I trained a wee bit as an actor when I was younger. I thought maybe that's what I wanted to do, and I never ever thought writing was something for me. Because I found creative writing in school really challenging in the short story format and stuff. Um, but without even kind of thinking about it too much, I kind of started writing scripts at maybe quite a young age. And I just found that method of writing really, well, it was engaging and also very accessible. And it was how my brain sort of worked. And it was actually during the pandemic, um, as we all did, we kind of tried to find new ways to entertain ourselves and kind of, we were all finding new hobbies and things like that. And I really got into writing. And I wrote this wee story about a father and daughter, which I kind of written as like a little moment in like maybe a bigger story, like maybe potentially a feature, that I just kind of wrote for myself. And I wrote this scene essentially, and I was like, oh, this is the most interesting part. And I kind of never felt like maybe compelled, because I always thought, oh, I'd write something for like maybe feature or whatever, but I never felt so compelled to make something into a short, because I was like, okay, this is what a short can be. And I wrote it and I kind of sent it out to some friends, and I was like, oh, what do you think? And they were like, oh, this is like, we think this is quite good. Like, you should try and make it.
Mm.
And I was like, how does one make a short film? Because I didn't study filmmaking or anything. My degree was in politics and international relations.
Right.
I did quite a lot of like art stuff on the side. And I literally emailed this lovely woman called Wilma who worked at GMAC, which is like an educational equipment centre in Glasgow, a film centre in Glasgow. And I was like, you don't happen to know any producers, do you, that would like to have a chat? And she went, well, I actually do. This guy's lovely. And she put me in touch with Joel. And I I kind of don't know what I was expecting, but I think in some ways I maybe didn't expect it to ever get made, because I was thinking this
Mm.
is something I wrote in my room kind of for myself. Um, And it was a great lesson actually that, like if there's something that you're really passionate about and interested about it, kind of regardless of how much experience or anything that you have, somebody else might connect to that story and they want to help you make that. So it was a great reminder just to kind of, I don't know, I was kind of maybe waiting for the moment to feel like I was qualified enough to do this. And then having someone else read the script, my producer Joel, who's incredible and incredibly well experienced, and is just an amazing human being. And he was like, "Oh no, I think we can make this." And I was like, "You realize I've never done any of this before?" And he's like, "Yeah, but like you clearly love this story, and there's clearly something in that you want to do." And then before we knew it, we had an Indiegogo campaign set up. We were casting. I was like, and I still kind of like look back and go, was that whole thing real? Because it was just so like, again, because I was just sort of learning on the job.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I'd ever edited anything. It's the first time I'd ever, had to deal with like a sound mix or, a grade. Like this was all new to me. But I was so lucky that I was surrounded by a group of people who were incredibly experienced, but were really, really open to sharing their knowledge and information with me. And yeah, I probably was really annoying. I just kept on asking loads of questions. But yeah, I think there was a great lesson in that like sometimes you've kind of got to give it a go, and there's no point waiting for the moment that you feel like there's no point waiting for that moment to feel like you're qualified enough or professional enough or experienced enough. Sometimes if there's something that really compels you and motivates you, just kind of go for it.
Yeah. I mean, it just proves that putting yourself out there and seeking out connections is the best way to do it, really.
100%.
So, like, talk about this narrative of Heavy as well. Was there anything in particular that inspired the story, like something from your own life or just generally speaking?
Yeah. Um, I mean, it's not autobiographical. I think is incredibly universal. And I think I've always been really interested in the relationship between fathers and daughters. I think it's something that's maybe not explored fully maybe in film and television yet in a way that I don't know. I mean, it has, but I think I was kind of thinking there was maybe like a gap, especially when it came to these kind of conversations. Um, because there's so much love in that relationship and so much care and so much affection, but as close as that relationship is, it's characterized by quite a lot of silence and embarrassment and a little bit of like oh, I can't talk to you about that. And I thought that was really interesting to put these two people into a situation who have been, without probably even realizing, been socially conditioned to think that they can't talk about certain things with each other. Because this little girl in the film is ultimately, she feels kind of humiliated that she has to go to her dad about it, and she feels like maybe, why is, she feels embarrassed. Like it was kind of like desperate times call for desperate measures kind of thing that she had to speak with him. And he kind of feels a bit like reluctant to have that conversation. But ultimately, those, I think it came from a place of just trying to inspire those conversations between men and women, because I think particularly when it comes to issues around female health, like we cannot like like men need to understand what's going on with our bodies. It's integral, and they kind of can't just sit there and like not realize what's going on. And especially I think when it's fathers and stuff, it's so important that you know what your daughter's going through and kind of what's happening. And that's actually been um some of the lovely moments that we've had from the film is talking to dads afterwards who have seen it, going, oh my God, my daughter's just about to go through this, or my daughter's going through it. Oh my God, I wish we had this when, because it's like, yeah, it's just, there's nothing embarrassing. The embarrassing thing in the sense is having that conversation, but they both gain so much from it,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. Sorry, that
Yeah.
was like a mad tangent.
No, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And talking about like there being a bit of a gap, well, yeah, in film, talking about female health and that sort of thing. Did you seek out any other creative works when putting together Heavy that inspired the story or helped you channel it in a certain way?
Yeah, I'm just trying to have a wee think. I mean, the filmmakers and the stories that I think I love the most, and especially since I've come to film school and kind of thinking about what are the stories I want to make, it's usually about finding kind of the extraordinary and kind of maybe the more seemingly ordinary. Um, so because I think there's so much power to having just two people in a room talking about their feelings or not talking about their feelings.
Mhm.
I think is some of the most interesting stuff. Um, yeah, because I think I was inspired by a lot of because I don't think of myself as being like comedy and all that kind of stuff. I don't really I that kind of scares me a bit. But I think without even realizing, I started writing a bit of humor into it. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, but I can't do comedy. That's not what I can do. But I think it was without realizing it was probably um kind of mirroring the kind of filmmakers that I love. So I think people like Alexander Payne, people like Greta Gerwig, these filmmakers who can so effortlessly infuse humor in situations that maybe don't feel funny or just are just downright not funny. But because it feels very human and it feels very natural. So I think probably without realizing that was sort of shaping how I wanted to do it because I think there's a huge strength and huge benefit when you're bringing, especially to these kind of more like kind of taboo conversations, bringing that level of humor into it, I think makes it really accessible and makes it a bit more digestible, and it makes it maybe a little less scary, I think.
Yeah. And often these conversations in real life are a bit funny anyway. Like if you take a step back and
Yeah.
look at them,
Yeah.
when you're in them, you're like not enjoying them at all.
No, literally. Well, because like kind of going back to your previous question, I remember when I got my first period, my mum was away and it was just me and my dad. So it kind of like it's not like the exact same situation in the film, but I just remember like at that time, I think I thought like the world was ending. I was like, my mum's not here. Like, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? And like you can only like look back and kind of have a laugh about it. Is that we were both
Mm,
trying to figure it out at the same,
yeah.
trying to figure it out at the same time. But it makes you, yeah, it makes us human.
Yeah. And so I understand that you shot the film in a real Tesco shop.
Yeah.
So I just wondered how you came about getting location and then how it was shooting on a real location as well.
After we screened it at BFI Future Film Festival, before people even said anything about the film, people were like, "How the hell did you get a Tesco to shoot it?" And we were like, people were like, "What did you do?" And the really boring answer is that we just asked. So I went to my local Tesco, um, and I just said with like a little letter, and I said, "Can I have a couple of minutes to talk to your manager about a project?" And they were like, yeah, come in. So I kind of went in and had a chat with the manager and just sort of pitched her this idea. I said, and this is what we're going to do. And this is the kind of conversation that we're trying to spark. And maybe about a day later, they went, sure, that's fine. And we were like, is this real? Because it's so hard usually for productions to get into supermarkets. But I think what's been so wonderful about this experience is like for example, we had companies like that offered us their products and stuff in the film. So companies like Bodyform, and these are like huge corporations. And I think I was like, oh my God, why? But I think what's like I was just so shocked. Like we asked them, but I was just shocked that they said yes. But I think but it was a real support of the narrative that we were trying to put out there, that these organizations were like, oh yeah, we want to be associated with that. And that was really cool. And yeah, and it was also kind of funny. That was also a Tesco that I then went back a year afterwards, and I was like, "Hi, can I get a job, please?" I just left uni, and I was like, "I desperately need a job." I don't know if you remember me. We had a cinematographer in a trolley. Can I get a job?
Yeah.
um, but they were so lovely and very accommodating and very like we kind of did some weird things. Like for example, we stuck our DP in a trolley and we took her around the shop.
Don't
Um,
know why.
it's just like because why not? Um, and they were very easy and they kind of got very used to us being there. So we were there for 2 days and we kind of went in very early. And I think we were there about 5 o'clock. Probably started shooting about half five, six. Um, was it half five, six? Oh, I can't even remember. Seven maybe. But we were there for about 5 o'clock.
Hmm.
And we were shooting on a Sunday and on a Monday. And the kind of rule that we had from the people at Tesco was like obviously customers kind of come first. If a customer, because we were shooting on a real aisle, and it was obviously like the sanitary product aisle and stuff like that. We kind of and like other health things. So people did need to come through, and like it was this moment where I don't know, like they like just a couple of times people would have to just kind of cut through frame, and we just kind of have to go with it. But I think it was like free atmos for us. Because I think, especially for our two actors, there's something really, I don't know, there's something really exciting about the fact that they were playing this situation, which was incredibly awkward and incredibly cringe-inducing, and you had people everywhere around the
Mm.
shop who aren't on camera or anything. But I think for the actors, it really helped inform this kind of this bit of maybe this bit of anxiety because there were other people there. So it was kind of like, even though they weren't on camera, I'm like, this is like free extras. Like this is fantastic. And there was something as well, like even we had no lighting set up in the film, apart from like maybe like a wee reflector and like a maybe like a couple of tiny wee things. But we all it was all kind of came from like the clinical light that we had in the Tesco. So we were really lucky that we kind of just walked in and everything was there for us in this kind of pre-established space. Um, and we kind of obviously like added our own wee touches and finishes to it. Um, but yeah, in some ways it was kind of like the best location in the world. I kind of loved it. Um, and people, and again, I think people were just, it's always interesting when you're shooting somewhere where there's other people because people are always very interested and want to
Yeah.
come and have a look. But people were very encouraging and very supportive and enthusiastic about what we were doing. And yeah, very good experience.
Yeah,
Very
that sounds
good experience.
great.
Yeah.
And
Like I always want to shoot on location now. I've kind of got the
oh right, yeah, I was gonna ask.
location.
Yeah, because I was wondering if you have shot in a studio since doing Heavy.
No.
Um,
So at the film school, we make obviously make quite a few films when we're here. And we were like, we had the chance to go meet production designers and stuff this week and see the kind of sets that they're building. And it's amazing because I was kind of like, oh, I think I'd always be someone who shoots on location. And then you
mm,
see the kind of sets that they're building, and you're like, you kind of forget you're on the stage because they're so incredible. So I'm
yeah,
definitely like really, really open to like experimenting with that. But I think, for example, I think it just depends on the film because for our film, it wouldn't. I don't think it would have worked in the studio space. I think you could have felt it.
mm,
You could feel the presence of other people in that store. And I think that's what was helping because so much of the anxiety of the film is other people watching. Like,
mm,
and in that situation, there's such a fear about like, especially I think for the dad, it's kind of there's a he feels embarrassed that he's having to stand in that aisle and is a bit like I think he's a little bit aware. He kind of looks over his shoulder to see if other people are looking at him and stuff. And we kind of got that for free in the supermarket. That kind of sense
mm.
of that those kind of people that were kind of watching. So yeah, but I think it depends. But again, extremely open because what they can do on a stage is absolutely crazy.
Yeah. So going back to like working with actors, so I know you've touched on how the setting was pretty important. It created the authenticity of the performances. But how was it just being a director and working with the actors in that way and creating such realistic performances and dynamics?
Yeah, oh, thank you. It was really, really good. I mean, I think coming from a background of being, I don't claim to be an actor because I kind of didn't really do anything, but kind of, I think what's great about having directors that have acted a little bit is that you kind of know what works and what doesn't work when it comes to direction. Because as an actor, it's, the kind of stuff that you want to hear from a director. And the worst thing you can hear from a director is someone saying to you, just do it like this. And that was kind of the one thing like I wasn't coming into this claiming to be an expert. Everybody knew that. But I was like, I know I'm not going to do that because that's not going to help anybody and it's not organic and that's just not how it works. Um, but yeah, I think we were very lucky. We found Holly. Um, we saw, I think, oh my gosh, it was like between 30 and 50 girls we met for that part. And Holly just kind of came in and we got her to do an improvisation and I don't know, she's just an amazing natural actor. And I think as well, like it's not a very like, profound point to make, but like 90% of 99% of acting is listening. And we just thought Holly was incredible at that. And then it was trying to find how we could because we had like what maybe 1 or 2 days of rehearsal, and you've got to try and establish this father-daughter dynamic in 2 days, and it is quite challenging. But yeah, I think the process for them or for us was trying to figure out what got them to this point. So all the stuff that's kind of not in the script. So it's like, so where were they before this? What was the car ride on the way here like? What was the situation? What compelled you to say to ask your dad, what's going on here? What's your relationship like? And having kind of answering some of those questions beforehand, I think really helped, because then we all just kind of knew when we were going in. And I didn't want to like impress upon them like this is how it is, like because I had a version of it in my head. I'm like, well, actually, how do you guys feel? Because I think trying to keep them as involved as possible is integral. And once we've kind of established those kind of questions, then yeah, we knew where we were and we knew what that relationship was, and we almost shot in chronological order. I think we basically did, which again is very, very rare. So it meant we were kind of like building slowly with them, which again was incredibly beneficial.
Mm.
But I think I didn't really have to do, especially on the shoot, I didn't really have to do a great deal. They kind of knew what they were doing.
Mm.
But yeah, I think I realized as well, like just trying to create an environment that is as relaxed as possible is probably the most important thing that you can do. And especially because they were in a live environment where people were coming past and maybe interrupting takes, or maybe like stopped us from doing a take or whatever. Like they were incredible at just kind of how they kind of managed to kind of hold themselves and keep themselves composed and relaxed. So I was really lucky. They kind of did all.
Yeah.
I was just kind of able to kind of just watch and go, wow. And it was just kind of maybe more like occasionally like more like technical things.
Yeah.
You just like stand a little bit like that.
Mm.
But I think because we've done some good work in our workshops and rehearsals before, that kind of meant on the day you just kind of got to let them go. And sometimes just encourage them to just like forget everything. Like and like to try and get an actor out of their thinking mind, and just to say like just go like mad with it, like just do something really extreme, and it might not make the take, it might not make the final cut, but I think it kind of liberates you physically and
Mm.
emotionally just to be a bit more like open. But yeah, I was very lucky. I was
Yeah,
very
that's some
lucky.
great advice as well.
I
Um,
hope so.
So, I know you attended BFI Future Film Festival yourself and got to see your film on the big screen. I just wondered how you found the festival and if you had any favorite events or films that you saw there.
Oh my gosh, no, genuinely, I loved it so much. I think I've been to a few film festivals, and I think like, and I'm not just saying this for the purpose of this, but like the BFI Future Film Festival was genuinely one of the best festival experiences I've had. And I think it's just, I think it was so busy, it was so lively, and it was so bubbly, but it was just filled with people who were like, I'm really interested in, let's have a chat. And I
Mhm.
think I've like obviously there's a huge kind of networking element with film festivals anyway. But I think I've never been around a group of young people who were so ready and kind of excited to chat. I felt very lucky to be there. And then yeah, to see the film was very special, because we always say like the film it will never look as good as it did in that cinema in the BFI, like ever. It
Mm.
sounded amazing, it looked amazing, and I'm like, okay, it looks amazing. That's the best way I'll ever see it. But like I got to see it, like some of my family had come down, so I live here now, and like some of my family got to come down and see it, and it was my mum, my cousin, and my aunt, and we all just kind of were like, must have been like 4 rows in, and we all just kind of like watched it. And I kind of can't watch it anymore because I've seen it so many times, but I was able to kind of just like listen to the audience around me. And what was lovely about it is like different moments resonate with different audiences, you know?
Mm.
And it's funny, like going from festival to festival, to seeing how different things resonate with different audiences. But it got a great laugh in this crowd, which as soon as the first laugh happened, there's our wonderful actor Steve, who played the dad. Maybe like the second or third shot into the film was just him looking really blank and really confused, and we got a laugh there, and I was like, okay, we're comfortable. I can relax a little bit now. People get it. But especially, so I got to see the films. The only films I got to see was on that Friday, and like they were unbelievable and so inventive and innovative and really really complicated. I was with my mom and we were just kind of talking afterwards, and I was like, kind of can't believe I've been included in this because like genuinely it was unbelievable. And this is so bad because I love this film so much, and I'm gonna get the name wrong. Is it Everything Looks Something from Up Here? Oh my gosh, the black and white Northern Irish film.
Everything looks simple from a distance.
That's it.
Yeah.
I was like, everything looks good from up here, down here. Apologies to the team that made that because I got to chat to them afterwards. I mean, I loved all of them, but I was so moved by that film, so
Mm.
moved by it. Um, and again, how it kind of uses humor in a way to sort of emphasize just the kind of tragedy of the situation. And in that moment, when the guy says, um, he's like, if we don't find something to connect over with now as a country, like I think people are gonna die.
Mm.
It was like, yeah, because you kind of think, oh, like it's kind of funny, like Northern Irish, like Northern Ireland space crew, like, oh, this is like what a brilliant idea because Northern Ireland is so small and da 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 da, and then realizing when it was set, and why he felt compelled to do it and the lengths that he went to, um, but it came out of a place of fear. I just thought it was so complicated, it was so beautiful, and to achieve that, and I think 10 minutes was such a feat. I was kind of fangirling over that team. I met them at the drinks afterwards. I was like,
Yeah.
and but in terms of events as well, I went to one of the Inside the Writers' Rooms events,
All right.
which
Yeah.
was like, again, it's like it's incredible because it's the kind of access that you maybe wouldn't get otherwise, and to be in that sort of room, but just hearing these people talk about their craft and how they work, and also how writing can be incredibly collaborative as well. I thought was such
Mm.
a useful insight, and just into the realities of how do you map a story out, how do you keep energy, how do you keep pace, try and keep it tonally consistent throughout a season, even though there's different directors and different screenwriters and da, 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 da. I thought was so I thought was so interesting. I also went to one of the talks which was about producing commercials, and I kind of had never really thought about commercials before. But again, it's like there's still stories at the end of the day. Um, and again, in some ways, what's even more extraordinary is like it's 20 seconds and you've got like a beginning, middle, and end of the characters. And you're like, it's such a feat in filmmaking that you can actually achieve that. So again, even though maybe I don't know if I want to work in commercials, I don't really know. There was something great to be learned within that about actually, yeah, just how you make it and how you can make something really efficiently as well and get something across
Yeah.
really efficiently instead of, I think there's sometimes a temptation because Heavy, when we did the first cut, was like 8 minutes, and I was like, I think it's too long. I think it's too
Mm.
long, and it cut down to like 5.5 because we just sort of chopped it about. Because sometimes I think there's a great strength in something being really snappy and it being kind of like quick, and it kind of has its story, and you're kind of in and out. And yeah, I think the commercial exercise was a great, yeah, it was a great insight into how that works and how you can get story and message across very quickly. So yeah,
Sounds like you had a great time.
a great time. Oh my god, yeah.
So, do you have any advice for other people who are submitting to festivals?
Oh my gosh. I think there's a pressure because I think one of the things that when I look back on the process of making Heavy, the shoot was quite quick. The pre-production was quite quick. The thing that took the longest time was post. And I think that maybe came from, I think it came from my point from a place of maybe of an experience, my point, because I found it really scary to say yes to things and to pass off on things because I was like, oh my God, that just makes it real. And I kind of just like sit over decisions forever. And then you're kind of holding on to a project, some maybe for too long. So I think like festivals are great in the sense that they can offer you a sort of a deadline period as well. I think thinking of festivals as a deadline period is a really good way of looking at it because actually you are at risk then of just kind of overworking it and I actually ended up needing to take a little bit of time away from it so I could have slightly more of a clear head, especially when we went to things like the mix and the grade.
I mean, that's good advice. If
Yeah,
you,
yeah, I think yeah, and like for me, there's maybe a pressure to submit something that you think is perfection to a film festival. Like, and I'm sure all of the filmmakers will watch their films, and it doesn't matter whether you're. I was going to say Scorsese. I don't know if Scorsese how he reviews his work, but I'm sure a lot of filmmakers, both starting out and both very experienced, will look back and go, "Oh my God, why did I make that decision? Like, I don't like maybe I wouldn't do that." But like, that's just part of the process. Just don't strive for perfection. Just that strive to make something that you're proud of.
awesome. Yeah. So I just want to quickly talk about your prizes from BFI Future Film Festival. So Best Writer, that was supported by Action Extreme, and you won £1,500 and a mentoring package. So how are you planning on using your prize money in the mentoring?
Well, it's gone straight into the savings.
Right.
It's gone straight into the savings. Um, I don't really know kind of about the money yet, but the the mentorship programs I think I'm particularly excited about because I'm after having kind of spoke to the mentors that I'm going to work with, because I'm working with Catherine Bray as well. Um, is like those mentorships can kind of be whatever you want them to be. So I was kind of like I took a bit of time afterwards, kind of going, oh, what do I really want to do? I'm like, actually, I like what can I use support with? And I'm like, well, a space that I kind of haven't really conquered yet is the making of features and the kind of the development of features and kind of maybe using it as an opportunity to kind
Yeah,
of
that's
educate and inform myself on that. But also like I'm just so excited just to listen to them and kind of learn from them
Mhm.
and how they've navigated the industry and especially Action Extreme because the world of action is again like I'm maybe like, oh, I don't quite know what that is or how I fit into that or what I can bring to that. So kind of learning about how maybe I can sort of like integrate the kind of stuff that I make with that kind of world. I'm really interested.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. And with Best New Talent, as well as the mentoring from Catherine Bray, you also won a Sony FX30 camera and an SEL 2870 lens. So I just wondered if you had any projects that you were planning on using that for.
Well, so if you ask any of my friends, they will tell you that I'm not the strongest when it comes to technology. So I'm kind of it's still in my room. I'm kind of scared to open it because I'm terrified of breaking it. But 100%. So we're hoping to make a film, another short later this year. So actually just having that as a resource to use,
Mm.
oh my God, it's such a blessing. I feel so lucky. And I've never, when we came home from the BFI Future Film Festival, I was kind of carried my bag. I've never carried anything like so like securely in my life. I am not going to lose this. But yeah, I'm gonna like do my research first, understand kind of how it works, and then I'll take it out of the box because I don't want to break anything quite yet.
Yeah, that sounds cool. So sadly, we've come to the final question. I just wondered if you had any advice for another young filmmaker who's starting out in the industry.
That idea or that little story that you had in your head in your room one day has value, you know? Don't feel, especially at this stage in your career and of your development, create things that matter to you. Don't worry about kind of outside influences or external or thinking like, will this sell? Will this XYZ? Because that can all come later. Like right now, you're at that stage where you're just trying to develop and strengthen your own creative voice and your own creative practice. So give yourself the space and time to create things that matter to you. And also, this sounds really silly, but I've kind of only really realized it now, is that actually just giving yourself a bit of time to think is also really important. We kind of live in a sort of a go, go, go culture. And kind of that sort of toxic productivity, which I just do not, I don't know how you feel as well, but I just do not think that's kind of compatible with being creative at all. It might work in other industries, but I don't think it kind of works with us.
Mhm.
So, like, giving yourself time to actually just think and observe and read and watch and just watch everything is just as important as the actual work that you create, because that will inform how you see the world and things. And yeah, and again, it's no word of a lie, but like you can make anything on your phone now as well.
Mm.
I don't know if that sounds really, I don't mean for that to sound patronizing or anything, but I think you can. Like, it's amazing what can be achieved on a mobile phone. Um, and yeah, I wrote that script not thinking it was going to go anywhere. So to now be in a position where I get to talk to you about it as part of the BFI Future Film Festival, I think it's a lesson to everyone that like you can you can do it.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for today's interview, and you've given some amazing insights and advice. So, yeah, really appreciate it. And for everyone watching, if you haven't seen Heavy already, definitely should. It's on the BFI YouTube channel, so you can check it out there. And this interview also wraps up our season of Scene, where we're interviewing the award winners of the festival. So I'd urge you to go and check out some of the previous ones if you haven't done already. They're also on the BFI YouTube channel. So once again, thank you so much to Eve, and thank you for watching.